6 p.m. So I will call the January 28th, 2025 Beaverton Urban Redevelopment Agency meeting to order. Will the recorder please call the roll?
Yes, Madam Chair. Councillor Duggar? Hartmeyer Prigg?
Here.
Hassan?
Here.
Kimmy?
Here.
Teeter?
Here.
Tivnon?
Here.
Hanning?
Here.
Nye?
Here.
Walton?
Walton is excused.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'm
As we
also
begin
here.
this, thank you, Director Lair. Board Member Lair, thank you. Okay. So as we begin this evening, I'd like to welcome our 2 new Beaverton Urban Redevelopment Agency board members to our meeting, Corinne Hanning and Jennifer Nye. Both Corinne and Jennifer were approved by City Council earlier this month. Corinne is replacing Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue retiree Cassandra Olden, and Jennifer is taking Roy Kim's place on the board. You may know Jennifer from her many years of service on the Planning Commission, and before that, the Board of Design Review, as well as an original member of the Urban Renewal Advisory Committee. Jennifer is an architect who's lived in downtown Beaverton for a long time. Corinne is a public affairs officer with TVFNR and has been shadowing Cassandra on urban renewal these past few months. Welcome to you both. We can't wait for you to bring your voice and expertise to our board. We're so lucky to have you. In a few moments, we'll be considering this year's Bureau board officers of chair and vice chair. As last year's chair, I will continue to preside over the meeting until we elect the 2025 officers. The first item on our agenda is visitor comment. Visitor comment allows visitors to speak to the Bureau board about matters not included on tonight's agenda. Recording secretary, do we have anyone here to address the Bureau board?
Chair, no one is.
Thank you. So we will now move to board communications. Do we have any board members that have information they would like to share with the rest of the board and the executive director? Okay. You can put your name in the chat at any time during the meeting if you would like to be recognized by the chair to speak as well. But seeing no board communications this evening, we will move to the consent agenda portion of the agenda. We have 2 items for consideration tonight: reappointment considerations for the Bureau Budget Committee and the Urban Renewal Advisory Committee. These are Bureau Bills 2025-01 and 2025-02. Do I have a motion for these consent items?
Sure, I can make the motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, Board Member Hassan. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And it's been moved by Board Member Hassan and seconded by Board Member Lair. Are there any comments on the motion? Is that Board Member Teeter?
Yes, a couple questions for staff probably. So we got 2 vacancies that we need to fill by May for the Bureau Budget Committee, and then we have 4 vacancies on URAC. Is that in an effort to keep the boards and commissions smaller, or do we need to approve some more appointments to URAC as well? So Bureau Budget Committee and URAC.
Yeah, good questions. Thank you, Board Member Teeter. The Budget Committee does need to have those 2 vacancies filled, and in line with the rest of the boards and commissions scenarios this year, we've elected to hold off on the 4 vacant positions on URAC. So more to come on that, but we do expect that April you will be approving or considering approval for the Budget Committee's vacancies.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on the consent agenda? Okay, and Board Member Duggar has joined us. So Board Member Duggar, we are just, we have a motion and a second on the table right now for consent agenda. So we will now move to a roll call vote on the motion.
Duggar?
Yes.
Hartmeyer Prigg?
Yes.
Hassan?
Yes.
Kimmy?
Yes.
Teeter,
Yes.
Tivnon,
Yes.
Hanning,
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Lair.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Now we'll move to the business section of our agenda. We have 3 business items for consideration tonight. The first is the election of bureau officers for calendar year 2025, Bureau Bill 2025-03. We'll begin with nominations for the bureau chair, take a vote, followed by nominations for the bureau vice chair and vote. And the positions that we nominate and vote on tonight will start as soon as we approve, and we'll continue through the remainder of the calendar year. I believe we got also just the kind of reminder of how this process will work in our an email from Tyler. So we will now open the floor for nominations for bureau chair. Are there any nominations? All right, well, I would like to move that Counselor Teeter serve as our bureau chair this year. Counselor Teeter, would you be open to the nomination?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Are there any additional nominations for bureau chair? Okay, seeing none, then I will ask the recorder to take a roll call on the first nominee.
Duggar,
Enthusiastic, yes.
Hartmeyer Prigg,
Yes.
Hessen,
Yes.
Kimmy,
Yes.
Teeter,
Yes.
Tivnon,
Yes.
Hanning,
Yes.
Nye. Oh, okay, thank you. Lair,
Yes.
902.
Thank you. The floor is now open for nominations for bureau vice chair. Are there any nominations? I would like to nominate Director Lair to the vice chair position if he is open to that.
Yeah.
Okay, any further nominations? Okay, seeing none, will the recorder please take the roll call on Director Lair? Vote.
Duggar,
Another enthusiastic and grateful yes.
Hartmeyer Prigg,
Yes.
Hassan,
Yes.
Kimmy,
Yes.
Teeter,
Yes.
Tivnon,
Yes.
Hanning,
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Lair,
Yes.
902.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Directors Teeter and Lair. Congratulations to you both. I will now pass the gavel over to our new chair, Director Teeter.
Okay, thank you very much. And as we continue forward with the rest of the meeting and throughout the year, if you have anything you want to add to the conversations, just put your name in the chat. It helps me keep track of the order people are wanting to speak, and we'll get around to you. Okay, let's move forward. The next item on the agenda tonight is Bureau Bill 2025-04, Lombard West Redevelopment Authorization to Release a Request for Qualifications for the Disposition and Development of 2.03 acres. So staff will provide a presentation updating the Bureau Board on Bureau-owned Lombard West property with the anticipation of releasing the RFQ at the end of this month. So Liz, if you're ready, you can go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. For the record, Liz Jones, Project Manager in the Community Development Department. And with me tonight, I see other attendees who are part of the project team that I'd like to acknowledge, and that's Janine Lambert, Tyler Ryerson, and Javier Mena. And we're here tonight to provide you with a presentation on the future issuance of a request for qualifications, or an RFQ, for the disposition and development of the Lombard West site. A draft copy of the RFQ is attached with the Bureau Bill that you received earlier, maybe late last week. And tonight we'll provide you with with an overview of the key terms. So to orient ourselves, Lombard West is a uniquely large, because it's in the middle of downtown, empty flat site. It's real centrally located, and it's been part of the Bureau portfolio since 2021. The site is across the street from Beaverton Transit Center, which is one of the busiest transit centers in the region. And it has very good pedestrian and bike access with bike lanes along Lombard Avenue, and the Crescent Connection Trail provides really great multimodal access to bikes and peds along the southern edge of the site. The site is zoned Regional Center Beaverton Central, which is a very flexible zoning district that supports transit and pedestrian-oriented high-density mixed-use development. In July 2023, Bureau adopted the Bureau Portfolio Redevelopment Strategy that is a document intended to provide high-level guidance for the disposition and redevelopment of Bureau's properties. And the strategy identified Lombard West as one of the first properties that would be offered for redevelopment as it's fairly development ready. Then earlier last year, Bureau was awarded a flexible reimbursable grant from Metro of $500,000 intended for the use of, to use it for pre-development activities, specifically to support the Lombard West site. So Bureau and Metro entered into an IGA, or an intergovernmental agreement, that guides us as to how we use those grant dollars, which in this case, they're being deployed in phases, some before the developer's solicitation, during the selection process, and then the bulk of funds are being reserved for after the developer is already selected. The Planning and Development Grant provided the opportunity to do some key early work on the site in advance of the solicitation. We did work in the community engagement area, as well as site studies. Bureau contracted with Unite Oregon, who helped facilitate the community engagement by conducting a series of workshops that were really targeted to focus on the Lombard West project, intending to really fill in the gaps on some of the prior community engagement that was more general in nature during the Bureau Portfolio Redevelopment Strategy. And I wanted to give a huge shout out and thank you to those who did participate in that process, because it's really valuable feedback that they provided that I think will result in a better project. I also wanted to acknowledge that many folks have agreed to continue in the future phases of the engagement, which is, a huge time commitment. We're very appreciative of that. A few of the main themes that really rose to the top during that engagement effort was the importance of creating a culturally inclusive, family-friendly community. And folks really wanted to see special attention paid to family programming. So, and programming for youth. So things like music and daycare offerings on site were interesting to folks, as well as people expressed a real need to have the site be safe and secure for folks. A real concern too, and like an area for opportunity, is to make sure that the site really feels like a cohesive community, one community, even if there ends up being multiple uses on the site or multiple buildings. It's very important that the community feels united, and that any kind of physical or social barriers are broken down, and that they're unified. So what they had an idea that potentially open space could help achieve that unification, along with special events or coordinated management as well. The grant also paid for and supported some site studies, early due diligence work, like we did some environmental. We tested the soils and determined how they would be treated during construction activities, did a contaminated media management plan. We looked at the natural resources, did an assessment to determine whether or not there were wetlands. Also, we began groundwater monitoring, which will continue for another year to really, really understand the fluctuations of groundwater to the surface of the site. So those are those activities that we conducted. Development goals for the site. Back to the portfolio redevelopment strategy, the document really established a vision for Lombard West. And the vision it established was for it to be a high-rise transit-oriented development that should really take advantage and leverage the prior public investments, particularly the regional transit system that's across the street. So for this project, the primary objective is really to maximize density at Lombard West. And strategy called for the creation of a community of mixed income housing, both regulated and affordable housing. and with potential, integrated additional community benefits like public open space, active ground floor uses, and there were opportunities noted for integration of green building techniques like cross-laminated timber as well. The RFQ will ask proposers to provide their best preliminary ideas about the development of the site. So this slide illustrates the sections of the submittal responses that will be scored. The expectation is that the selected team will demonstrate a project that best meets the public goals and is the most feasible and proposes the most strategic approach to combining the public resources with the private investment. So, as we see here, the vision is weighted 40% and the financial component and team experience 60 combined. We expect a development of this magnitude to require complex funding solutions. So this slide identifies potential development incentives that could be available to the selected team contingent upon their specific concept and also negotiations with Bureau or other partners, like here identified Metro and THPRD, 12th and Hills Parks and Recreation District. As an example here, Bureau has affordable housing funds identified in the 5-year action plan, which could be allocated in part to Lombard West, the affordable housing component. Additionally, Bureau could choose to do a partial land write-down of the land should a development team propose such a mechanism to help incentivize this project. And then earlier we talked about the Metro grant, part of which supported the early due diligence work, and that we've, earmarked $360,000 for that to be used post-developer solicitation. So those funds could be used for things like additional natural resource assessment, schematic design, preliminary storm reports, maybe geotechnical reports, things of that nature that the development team could negotiate with Bureau and utilize those funds for those activities. Also, THPRD has an SDC waiver program for qualifying affordable housing programs. And they also have a program to assist a developer potentially with providing the public park component. For those two elements, the development team would need to coordinate directly with THPRD in partnership with us on those two programs. But it's really important, I think, to note that those are available to them so that those can be integrated early in the process and in the design and concept. Regarding the schedule, we've been working towards an RFQ release date by end of month with the goal of having the developer selected by early summer. Once the developer is selected, then we will conduct negotiations to begin executing the exclusive negotiation agreement, or the ENA, that will really help establish the parameters and the expectations of both parties with the mutual goal of advancing and creating a new community at Lombard West. So with that, I'm available for questions and comments.
Thank you, Liz and team. So board members, do you have any questions or comments? And as a reminder, just put your name in the chat. We can work through any of you who have any. Right, board member Hassan.
Yeah, thanks. Liz, can you hop back to that point slide really quick?
Apologies, which slide?
The points, like with all the points, because I'm looking at the agenda bill and then I'm just trying to put them together. That one.
Okay.
Sorry, one more. One more up.
Nope.
It was like the point system for the RFQ.
Oh, I'm sorry. The point.
That's okay.
Of course.
There we go. Okay.
Evaluation
There we
criteria.
are. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I saw 10, 10, 20. Sorry, y'all. It's different on the agenda bill unless I'm missing something. So in here, it says public-private partnership 20 points and then experience of development team 10 points, but on here it shows 10. So I'm looking at the agenda bill. My question was around, are we putting too much emphasis on experience? Because in the agenda bill, it's showing 30 points, but here it's showing 20 points.
Yeah, and that's a really good question. And definitely this is what, one of those areas that we would really appreciate your feedback. on during, we published the Bureau bill, and then this is a super good catch. Internally, when this PowerPoint presentation was reviewed, folks thought, well, gosh, this should be weighted differently than it was originally in the Bureau bill. So you can see even we're a little bit, I don't want to say conflicted, but it could go either way. It's just also important. So definitely open to feedback.
Okay, so I have the privilege of having watched this from the beginning, which is unusual given how many projects we see and how long they go. So I remember 2021 meeting seeing all of this. So I love the direction we're going. I'm so excited to see this RFQ. My one concern or comment was making sure that we're diversifying the points in a way that if there was someone with a little bit less experience, but more innovation or sort of ideas, I'd be curious. However, what the agenda bill that's published online shows is 30 points around experience with similar public-private partnership. And then, so 20 points to that and 10 points to the experience of development team, whereas the slide shows 20. So I'm not super strongly opinionated either way. And I'm super curious what some of my colleagues will say. So thank you. Just so excited to see this get to RFQ, like so excited.
Thank you. And I think that's it's such a great comment. I think that in a prior RFQ, we had 20 for the public-private partnership. And at that time, that made a lot of sense. And so that's where the starting point was for this. And then as we really got into it more, we realized, gosh, especially in this market, it feels like the capacity and the ability to deliver on the project is really important too. So that's where we were, struggling a bit, I guess, with that criteria and playing around with what that looked like. So I'll be interested to see what others have to say too. Thanks.
Okay, Board Member Tivnon.
Thanks. I work on a lot of these types of proposals in my day job and have talked to selection committee members in the course of just doing a lot of best practice research on how teams can prepare their proposals to try and score as most effectively as possible. And the feedback I get is that sometimes they'll give something only 5 points, but it ends up being the thing that's the differentiator and someone wins it on 1 point. A lot of times these things come down to very, very small spread between the scoring for like the top contenders for it. So I'm not as concerned about the weighting of each of them, just that the criteria itself is capturing everything that we think we're going to need this consultant team to bring to the table, and just that we've exhausted that list of the top things. It's like it's critical that they know how to ... The wetland component and any concerns around geotechnical or stuff like that I don't know. I know that that's a consideration that has potential impacts on a lot of the sites. But yeah, that's just in my experience that a lot of times there's a lot of effort spent on trying to get the scoring just perfect across them when it's really which team is showing up better in that area, they're going to get more points. And even if it's 20 points or 10 points, if they're consistently scoring higher in those areas. So that's the only consideration, is if there's one of these that we think is outsized in terms of its importance, that we really want to place emphasis on, then perhaps giving it more points than the others, just to add in, like, you really need to show up and prove your expertise in this particular area. Only feedback I can think of.
Board Member Lear.
Yeah, so first a comment. I want to say, and we've had several meetings on this. We had our one-on-ones. We had board meetings on this where staff came and asked us about what we wanted, what our vision for the site was, and all of that. All of those points have been nailed in here, which I think is great. So really appreciate you taking the time not only to ask the questions, but to clearly listen and incorporate that in. The question I do have on this criteria here, the housing component, like I read in the bill what the description is. I'm still not really sure I understand exactly what you're looking for here.
And Liz, if you're speaking, you're muted.
Thank you. I wasn't yet. I was flipping to my RFQ document so I could
Okay.
have quick access
Thanks.
to it. I don't have a slide. I'm going to provide a response and then I'm going to ask Javier to fill in the gaps. He's really our housing expert here. And, you know, given that we're trying to target affordable housing particularly, I think it's really important that we understand the target population that they're shooting for, you know, what sort of services might be needed for that particular target. What kind of programming, you know, would be unique to that population that could make the community more successful. And it's not just the affordable, it's the other side too, especially as we're hearing from folks that there's this concern that it might feel like two communities if it wasn't intentionally integrated. So, and then a lot of times with affordable housing, you know, a large emphasis is also placed on how you market, lease up, reach out to folks to be able to lease up the spaces later. And that's later in the project, but it's really important to hear from folks early in the process. So I'm going to stop talking and let Javier fill in the gaps. Thank you.
Javier Mena, the Affordable Housing Manager at the City of Beaverton. Just to echo what Liz has mentioned, it is what we try to do in this case is be very broad. We did not want to be so prescriptive as to what we're looking for. We know that the private-public partnership is key. We know that partnerships, whether it's for affordable and market rate, whether it's one or two agencies, is huge. It's very important, especially as Liz mentioned, the importance of having one community as opposed to different communities, and how you create that synergy. And so the last thing we wanted to do is be very prescriptive, which is I know that on developer side, if you submit a proposal, you want to be able to say, yep, we hit that target, we hit that target, we hit that target. In this case, because we really are pushing the market, we do not have a mid-rise building in Beaverton, housing building in Beaverton. So we can't say we want this number of units, we want, this number of type of units. On the affordable housing side, it's a little bit easier because we know that we need 2 and 3 bedroom units, there's a lot of studios and 1 bedroom apartments that our target on the affordable housing side, it is, 2, 3 bedroom. On the market rate is really up to the developer to see what is it through their analysis is important for them to be able to maximize their benefit on that. And so the goal, and maybe we need to look at it again, thanks to your comment, is that we need to see, are we providing enough direction to be able to receive the proposals that hit on those priorities of maximizing density, creating one community, and the ability to bring affordable housing and market rate housing on this site. I'm not sure if I answered the question, but that's kind of what we were looking at.
Yeah, you did. Thank you both. I appreciate the clarification. And also, Board Member Nye, I think you were trying to put your name in the chat in general. You just sent it to me directly. So just wanted to give everybody a heads up about that. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Board Member Lear. Yeah, Board Member Lear will get to you, or Nye will get you to you in just a minute. We'll go first to Board Member Hartman-Prigg.
Thank you. I think that I like kind of the balance of the points better and what we're seeing on screen. Thanks for noting that, Councilor Hassan. I think that the financial feasibility of vision for the site and financial capacity of the team are just so important because putting these projects together is so critical. So I do think putting a little higher emphasis on that is going to help us have confidence that we will choose the right partner because they will know how to pull this off from what it will cost to do it as well. So I think that this balance looks good. I think the criteria works as well. Councilor Timnang, you said something interesting though about like the wetlands piece of it. And I'm curious, do we need to consider anything like that, or does that kind of just fit into the vision and like maybe even the financial feasibility, given the topography of what's nearby of this actual land itself? But I think that this evaluation criteria looks good to me.
Did staff have any comments about the floodplain, the wetlands, or we can move on to board member Nye if staff, you don't have any comments.
I guess I would just note that that is a piece of due diligence that we're providing the team with. And in this case, it was determined that there aren't jurisdictional wetlands on the site, so that's good news. You know, but that is definitely information that they should be incorporating into their proposals. And you know, thanks to the grant, we are given the opportunity to do some of that early work that hopefully will be helpful to inform their proposals. And definitely important that it's included in their, you know, analysis of the site and to see what the site can, the capacity of the site to be able to accept the development that they're proposing.
Thank you, Liz. Okay, board member Nye.
Right. So I think this is an incredibly complex project that is being asked for. So I would just maybe consider the public-private partnership experience pretty important. You know, mixing market rate and affordable housing and commercial takes a very experienced developer with these, I mean, because it's bringing in a lot of different financing mechanisms. So that was my only comment.
Yeah. We will move right along to board member Duggar.
The question on this one, so when I'm kind of grouping these together as far as the points, kind of the first, the vision for the site, the housing and the equity that's 40 points for basically the site itself. And then the financial part is another 40 with the next two items. And then sort of the last two items, 20 points are doing it. Basically, are you capable of getting this done? Basically, is the way it's being grouped in my mind. And I wonder, number one, if some of this couldn't be accomplished, it's sort of pre-screening, right? Like as far as the financial capability or experience, you know, if we don't set some minimum standards, and so that way we don't use as much of our evaluative criteria on, you know, can you get this done or are you serious, basically? Because that's in my mind how some of these go. And if we instead of having that as our evaluative criteria of the bid, if we can just say, you know, you need to, I don't know exactly how it would happen, because I see this on my day job as like, we require a certain level of experience even to bid, right? Like this is kind of, you know, if not, we're not going to accept the bid, right? If you've never done a public-private partnership before, or you've never done urban development of housing, right? Like, so I was wondering if we could kind of rethink some of these. I don't think there's any one part that's wrong. I like them all. I wonder if it would make it simpler. And then the other kind of sub to that or secondary question is, does it make sense almost to combine those groups rather than saying 20% for vision, 10% for housing, and 10% for an equity component, right? Like if we just combine it for a, you know, in this instance, 40% would be evaluating the development of the site, and then put in there that part of the criteria is on housing, part of it is for the overall vision, you know, the equity component. And then that way it gives a little bit more leeway for the people evaluating the bid to kind of look at it holistically instead of saying, oh, well, you know, if it's a really great vision, but some of the other stuff isn't quite as great, you know, I can only give them 20 points in that area versus, you know, maybe the whole site itself gets 40 points, right? Because it's kind of evaluative of that whole thing. And then the same with the financing would be another group, and then maybe the 20 of experience or something like that. Just some initial thoughts. I think the general direction you're going here is very smart, and I could support it.
Okay, thank you. Board member Kimmy.
Yes, I have just a few questions How is this criteria different than before when we did request for proposal for market rate housing or affordable housing prior?
I have the documents next to me, but off the top of my head, generally speaking, because I don't recall the exact numbers, it's very similar to, this is a hybrid right now, this evaluation criteria that we see here today. And the last RFQ that was done, my understanding was for either the Westgate site, and then later it was the Beaverton Central site. And those two had very similar criteria to this, with the exception, I don't believe equity was called out specifically, or the housing component specifically. Since those were done, the Metro Bond funds were distributed through competitive processes as well. And those solicitations included elements like the equity component and the housing component. So this is kind of a hybrid of those RFQs, I guess, because of the unique nature of the affordable, or regulated affordable component.
Okay, thank you. So when we did request for proposal prior, how many companies did apply before? Many years ago.
Was the question how many companies applied?
Yeah.
I'm going to see if Janine, who did the most recent one, if she can recall how many proposals were submitted for the Beaverton Central 2-acre site, roughly, to put her on the spot.
We had 8 responses to the BC2 solicitation.
Okay, that's good. So by changing this criteria, putting more equity portion to it, do you see more companies possibly applying? That's number one. Number two, seems like the projects that we did went to Modera that we've been working on. I just want more variety of the people applying, I should say. So do we expect maybe more options since we are changing the criteria, or is it going to be about the same in reality?
It's a really good question. We haven't fully tested it for a bureau offering. We have had it for the affordable housing offerings with, utilizing the Metro Bond funds. Javier can probably speak to the last number of those. I feel like the senior affordable housing on 5th Street project had quite a few proposals submitted. Might have been around that 7 or 8 number as well. Javier, do you recall?
I can double check real quick, but I believe there were 5 proposals on the senior housing project. And I would just note that, all of those solicitations and proposals have come in at different times and different economic times and political times. So it's always a challenge trying to predict how many proposals we're going to get. But I know that we have heard of a couple of developers are very interested in waiting for this solicitation to.
Okay. Well, one last question. When you say equity portion of it, what do you exactly mean by that equity?
Well, I'm gonna go straight to what we've asked them to submit for this section. Generally speaking, it's how they're going to weave equity throughout the project. And specifically, what is their diversity makeup on their board, like their internal structure of the organization or partners that are involved in the project. What is their approach on community engagement, which on this project, it's a bit unique because we have Unite Oregon supporting, and through the Metro grant, we have Unite already on contract to assist with the engagement that's going to be conducted through the life cycle of the project. And then COVID, determining how they're going to achieve, the city's goal or, of at least 20% hiring of COVID certified subcontractors. And
Okay.
that I feel like has been woven into a lot of the work that we've done at the city. And I feel 20%, or is it 15%, that we've seen pretty consistently.
Okay, reason that I was asking is, I think we are kind of required to hire a contractor who at least subcontracts with minority-owned subcontractors or something like that. So just wondering if that is the case or not, but I would love to see that for whatever contract that we're giving out. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. I've got one or two questions of my own. I would like to return to something that Board Member Duggar shared about pre-evaluation for determining qualifications of experience or financial capacity. Is that something that is done in these sorts of RFQ processes, just kind of a pre-screening so that we free up some of the scoring for the actual work that would be on the ground as opposed to the qualifications of the business? Is that something that's done anywhere else or that we have done before?
I'm not aware of kind of a pre-screening for this section. And it's not something that we specifically evaluated, or looked for other agencies that did that. I think that, there are sections that are not scored, like the appendices and the references where, like in the case of the appendices, there's no page limit. So people could provide unlimited number of things to supplement there. Again, I'm not sure that we've determined if there's some base standards for this, particularly because the proposals in theory could be very unique and the partners that are coming to the table. So I'm very, I know that we're very open to ideas on how we might be able to structure something like that. And we could, report back if you all would like us to try to research that. So.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that. I'm not aware where we've done that pre-screening, as Board Member Duggar had walked us through. I would want to make sure that whatever process that we do put into place, that it meets, city procurement situation when we're responding, or when responses are coming in for these RFPs, RFQs. So I want to kind of talk through that a little bit. I like the idea. I think naturally that will probably come out as evaluations do go through the applications, because it will, those tendencies will reflect in the criteria or the points for the criteria responses. So we can look at it a little bit further. But I am not aware that we've done that in the past.
Okay, yeah, thank you. That was kind of a good point that some of it will self-filter out throughout the response process. Just some companies will see this and be like, we shouldn't spend our time doing this because we don't feel good about our chances with the experience doing the work. So I could see some self-filtering. I feel good about the allocation of points here. I think similar to Heart My Parade, I want to see whatever is actually proposed be actually put on the ground and completed. So we're not stalling out on something and doing this again a few years down the road. I don't want to do that. I do see Board Member Nye's name in the chat, so we'll go back to you, Board Member Nye.
I was just going to address your question. In the majority of the RFPs I've seen come out for this type of solicitation, there's not a lot of just pass fail scoring. I have seen for future solicitations for us a 2-round solicitation process where it's really just quals to start with and maybe a vision statement, and then the city would shortlist 3 or 4 firms and then ask them to do the full site analysis and pro forma and all that kind of investment that the development team has to do. but not a lot of pass-fail scoring.
Yeah, that actually reminds me, when we did the Lombard, the first and second block, we originally started with a request for information. And so it was an RFI. And so that was even less specific to an RFQ, which is less specific to an RFP. And that was one way that we did start with 3 applicants with an RFI, and then we went to an RFQ with 2 applications. And that's probably something along board members Duggar's thought process too. In this particular case, one of the things that we do not ask for is architectural renderings. And that is a cost to the developer up front. And sometimes we get blown away by really awesome renderings. And those aren't necessarily what ends up getting built. And so we've asked them not to include those renderings.
Yeah, thank you, Tyler. Reminded me back when I was in Asheville, I worked on an RFEI, that request for expressions of interest, so something even more vague. Anyways, we've had a lot of good comments here. Liz, staff, do you all feel good about what you've heard? Do you need anything else from us or any further clarification?
I think I'm okay for now tonight, and I really appreciate everyone's thoughtful feedback. And it's definitely given us good information to consider.
Great, yeah, thank you. No, we're excited to see this keep going forward, so keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Okay, the last business item tonight is Bureau Bill 2025-06, the Hall and Center redevelopment site update. So staff will give a presentation updating the board on the Bureau-owned Hall and Center property. So Janine, when you are ready, you may have the floor.
Thank you so much. Good evening and welcome to our 2 newest Bureau board members. I'm Janine Lambert, Senior Development Project Manager. First of all, can you see the slide? Okay, it looks right. Perfect. Tonight we're here seeking your approval to advance the Bureau-owned Hall and Center site, also known as the Buffet site, for development solicitation this spring or summer ahead of its original priority in the Bureau portfolio redevelopment strategy. If you approve tonight, we will come back to the February Bureau meeting with more information about proposed development solicitation elements implementing the strategy. A little background, Bureau purchased this 1.62 acre Hall and Center site together along with the 2-acre Lombard site we were just discussing back in 2021. So it was a joint acquisition for both properties. This property is located at the southeast corner of Southwest Hall Boulevard and Southwest Center Street in downtown's regional center mixed-use zone, which accommodates up to 75 feet of building height as of right and up to 120 feet through a discretionary process. This is the only Bureau property that Bureau owns for redevelopment that is outside of the regional center Beaverton Central District, which generally allows even higher density as of right, the 120 as of right. This property includes a vacant building that was acquired vacant at purchase that had significant deferred maintenance and is vacant and boarded up. Following acquisition in July of 2023, the board adopted the Bureau Portfolio Redevelopment Strategy you've heard a lot about tonight, which is a high-level framework for disposition and development of Bureau properties in order to facilitate redevelopment. The strategy recommended issuing development solicitations in a particular order. For this site, last, to explore cultivating a ground floor civic or cultural anchor, probably a nonprofit, as part of a mixed-use housing development for the ground floor component. At the October 2024 meeting, we heard Bureau board members, some of the board members express a desire for needing more housing development as soon as possible. So we heard that, and reprioritizing the development solicitation order for the Hall and Center site over the 1/5 acre Broadway property that was originally proposed next in the strategy, we think would yield more market rate housing faster downtown. So we're here tonight seeking your approval to advance this Holland Center site for development solicitation for mixed-use market rate housing above ground floor commercial. And if approved, we will come back to you next month to discuss the details and of what those elements could be, and target April or June for a solicitation release. And we are happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Janine. Board members, any comments or questions for Janine? Yeah, Board Member Hart-Pyrig.
Thank you. Just a comment that I'm excited to see what this corner can become, you know, just with how much activation is happening in the area, with how much redevelopment has happened in the area. I'm glad that we're pushing this up the priority list. I think it's just going to be a really welcome change in that area. So I'm excited. I can't wait to see what it becomes. I love, you know, the multi-use, the mixed use that we're aiming for is going to be, I think, perfect for this spot.
Thank you, Board Member. We'll go to Board Member Duggar.
I want to echo what Board Member Hart-Pyrig said. No questions other than just a quick comment on thanking the staff for reprioritizing this and bringing this forward. And I think this is a really exciting opportunity, and it kind of extends, in my mind, extends our urban core a little bit. That area doesn't feel super urban to me, but this is an opportunity to remake the way some of us think about that particular side of downtown. It's clearly in downtown. If you look, it has an amazing potential to do something really cool. So I just want to commend staff for again hearing the feedback in October, really bringing this option forward. I'm super excited about this one. So thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Board Member Lair.
I'll echo what my colleagues said. I know I've been one of the people pounding the table on we need housing, we need it ASAP. We have a crisis right now, so I think that's a good thing to see. I do have a question though about the cultural center, the community center. That's a very high priority for a lot of people in the community. And I've heard from a bunch of different boards or people in the neighborhoods that is a very high priority. And I hope that even though I think this is the right move, I hope that that's not getting pushed too far to the side or on the back burner, because there are a lot of people who've really expressed a strong interest in that. I mean, maybe this isn't the right site for it. Maybe this is a better site for housing, but I wanted to put that out there. I hope that doesn't get forgot at this point.
I'll just chime in one thing. While the wording is very similar, it didn't necessarily mean that would be the multicultural center site. It could have a cultural component with a nonprofit. It could be, it couldn't be, but it wasn't necessarily originally slated as a multicultural center site. Exactly.
Thank you. Board Member Tivnan.
We were driving by this site not that long ago. My husband looked at it, he's like, when is that going to get redeveloped? And he threw his arms up. And I was like, I don't know. It's going to come back at some point for Bureau to talk about. So it was exciting to see the timing of that. I get to leave this meeting and fill him in on the conversation we have tonight. I think that given the levers we still have to pull around the multicultural center, the work that's being done right now to get that needs analysis in place, that one's still, it's there's hoops to jump through. There's considerations around where the money's going to come from, especially looking at the federal level of things, and that our footwork and our dance steps are probably going to be shifting a little over the next 4 years to make big projects like that happen. And I knowing that Lombard West is basically right around the corner from this. So we've got affordable housing that we're focused on in this area, as well as something that arguably is probably the easiest for developers to get built. Being able to get that off and running in an area that's thriving and is full of eyes and ears, like just to watch and witness what we're doing in this area. It's just very, very exciting, especially if you look at the vantage point of a very short walk and you're at the Reeser, you're at the Round, the Cedar Hills Boulevard and all of the shopping there. I can see this being something that is transformative in a lot of ways, to Councilor Duggar's point about this idea of housing coming out and onto Hall in that area. Catalytic in some ways, supportive of the Reeser and all of the other investments that we've been making to just try and create this very interconnected hub of livability. So very excited to see it moving forward.
Board member Tiffin, go to board member Hanning.
Thank you. I guess my comment may actually be a point of clarification first. So with the proposed redirection, am I hearing that what originally had been potentially nonprofit cultural community center now may be moving more in the commercial on the first?
Yes.
Okay.
So we would be not proposing subsidizing or cultivating the ground floor use, but guiding it through evaluation criteria, but for more of a market rate approach.
Okay, thank you. Then that takes care of my other question. Thank you.
Thank you. I will just share a couple comments. I am excited about this. I will say I really like the Broadway East site, and I'll be excited for that to be redeveloped someday, especially with the now vacant Natural Grocers building next door. That said, I am supportive of reprioritizing this Hall and Center property, and there are a few reasons for that. One, it's touched on in the agenda bill, the program income, maybe it was touched on at some point, the program income possibilities for this being able to be a potential resource for further redevelopment, especially on Broadway East or other parts of our redevelopment portfolio. I think that program income could be really helpful and could help us speed along some other projects. I am still, I don't want to say disappointed, but disheartened that the site across Hall and Center Street has stalled out, at least temporarily. So I would be really excited if this could be an immediate catalyst for the property across the street. And I think once we start talking about that, we start seeing dominoes start falling across that whole area. So I think this could be a real catalyst. I do see a value in us reprioritizing it. So I appreciate staff for bringing this back and just making sure that we're making progress towards our redevelopment portfolio, even if it means shifting some things around a little bit. So I think this is good. I saw board member Nye, her name in the chat, so we'll go to her. If you have something else to add.
Yeah, your comment about program income made me want to ask or have the city consider whether, based on the current economics of development, especially market rate housing, whether the expectation for program income is feasible and realistic. And to consider that in writing the RFP. I just, market rate housing in general is generally not getting built in the metro area. I know we have a large project about ready to open. So we're exceeding the market in general in Beaverton. So I don't know what I think being careful about the wording on the RFP be helpful. And I think setting the values is probably the highest priority.
Yeah. Okay. Staff, Tyler, Janine, any of you have any further questions or clarifications for us? Okay. Well, thank you for working on this.
Thank you. We'll see you next month.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. We are moving on to the final item on the agenda, the Executive Director's Report. Andy, I believe you have a couple items for us tonight.
Well, thank you, Board Chair Teeter. First off, I just want to echo everyone else. Congratulations, board members Hanning and Nye. Corinne and Jennifer, welcome. We're happy to have you along. and can't wait to get you involved with everything we've been doing with Bureau. I know that Tyler and staff have been working with both of you to get you up to speed on onboarding opportunities. So please bring your questions for those. And in the meantime, don't hesitate to ask us if you have any questions. Also, congratulations to Chair Teeter, Vice Chair Mayor. This should be a good, exciting year for Bureau. In addition to these two solicitations, we got some other things that should keep our agendas lively and make a real difference this year. As always, the Bureau area projects update is in tonight's agenda under the executive director report. So please look at that for specific items that you may be interested in and let me know if you have any questions. A few items of interest. The parking team has a request for proposals out for district parking garage operations and maintenance services. And that RFP closes in a couple of weeks, February 11th. The on-street parking compliance program has been separated out of that. It was one contract previously, so now we'll just focus specifically on the parking garage and really trying to maximize the operations there. Speaking of program income, which is a good segue. The next Bureau meeting is February 25th. Nick Popanek will be back with a draft resolution for consideration of program income, that policy. And we're going to be shooting for adoption of the program income policy in April. So Corinne and Jennifer, that'll be a good item to kind of walk you both through is the proceedings thus far in the program income policy for Bureau. Also next month, the First Street Dining Commons will be discussed at this meeting. This will pick back up some of the topics and staff recommendations that were really last ventured upon in December of 2023. So we wanted to take the opportunity to have that conversation again in light of another another year really full of the First Street Dining Commons. So to have that discussion again so we can get some future clarity. And lastly, kind of a fun one, Tyler put this one in there and I think it would be good to share. I think a lot of folks here probably got a chance on this call or in this meeting to go to the opening of the Beaverton shelter. And if you know, there was a mural in there that was done by Damon Smith, the artist. Originally, well, he finished the second mural. I'll go ahead and do a screen share. No, Tyler's going to. Nice. And it's pretty great. He was able to bring this art into this space. And so if anyone is over at the shelter, you can see that in person at some time. But he just finished that. And then the artist, Damon, he's also going to be an artist in residence there for the residents at the shelter, and that work will start later this year. So it's a property in the Bureau area, but it's one for the community to be proud of. And then lastly, so we just hit kind of the February proceedings. There will be no Bureau meeting in March because that's the spring vacation for the state apparently. Yeah, we'll meet in February, discuss those couple items, and then Bureau income in April. And URAC, their next meeting is February 3rd, so next week. And that ends my report, Chair.
Thank you, Andy. Any comments and questions from Bureau board members? Board member Duggar, I see your name. Wait, we still can't hear you. Board member Duggar, you were almost there.
On the building improvement program, do we anticipate another application round in March or April? What's the status of that?
Yes, board member Duggar, we do anticipate another round in March to fund FY 25-26 projects. So that
okay. So when if those are the applications are due in March, what's the funding cycle will start after, presumably in like July, August, somewhere around there. Is that correct, or when do you anticipate that?
Yeah, no funds expended until then. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Board member Hudson.
Yeah, and I hope this is the right place, and if it's not, please let me know. I know that we had PIPS, which was one of the recipients, I think, of our tenant improvement grants leave. And I was just wondering, what does it look like to start identifying policy and or support when we have those kinds of partnerships with businesses, because that was, I believe it was Bureau funding, unless I'm wrong. Oh yeah, we're nodding. So it's just on my mind. I don't know when the place to talk about this was, but I wanted to just put it on the record for those of you who are listening. PIP's got some tenant improvement funding. We love PIPs. Now I have to go to Northeast Portland, which is fine, but want to be thoughtful about how we're investing in our local businesses.
Thank you, board member. I'm not. I'm still getting caught up the speed on all the the building improvement program expenditures we made over the year. I do know though that you know, one of the goals of doing tenant improvement support is that you're doing physical improvements in the space that will stay with the space in case through market conditions or, you know, financial implications. If a business leaves, the improvements do stay there. So I know that the staff has worked hard to make those guidelines clear, but yeah, that's, you know, we made some tweaks to the program over the summer, and I'm sure it's something we'll be revisiting again over the year, especially when you have, you know, potential churn with businesses. You'll just make sure that those grants are maximizing the space. So.
Yeah, thank you, Andy. Board member Hartmeyer-Freak.
Thank you. Councilor Hassan, it made me think, and I'm wondering if you were kind of headed here of even just like the small business support, right? And I know we've got like our great economic development team and whatnot. And so maybe is there any sort of like check-in with our recipients, right? Is there support offered? How can we kind of also help make sure that those investments, yes, they stay with the property, but like that business was really important too, right? And I know like it's hard, especially you know, in this case, just a community member, right, who just hears that Pips is closing suddenly, right? Like, and so that's hard. I mean, it had become a destination too, for a lot of people, you know. So I think it's also, I'm just kind of curious, like, is there opportunity to maybe from the economic development side when we are helping businesses through these business improvement grants? How do we keep the relationship going? You know, I mean, not that we could have fixed it, not that we maybe could have changed these circumstances, but you know, with our goal being like this thriving local economy too, right? And that's a thriving local economy also leads to a thriving local community. So just thinking, that's what I was thinking as you were speaking, Councilor Hassan, is that I think that's maybe where you were headed. And I think that's something for us to pay attention to, right? And eventually leads into those moments of program revenue, right? Because we've helped build up this really rich district.
I'll just pop in. Like my plan was to like plant the seed for future discussion. So thank you.
And board member Kimmy.
I just have a question to Vera. Do we have any plans to purchase more lots or buildings? Because I see at least 2 properties that came out on the market in Old Town, downtown area. I don't know if I think it's within our land jurisdiction. Just wondering if do we have any plans and what's going on with our 4 properties? And then just want to hear the future plans about it. I have one following question about parking. There's a lot of people complaining about parking issue in downtown. That's hard to find parking. But then I also noticed there's not really a sign that points to our library parking. I don't know if it's within the Bureau or the city, but I'd like to hear about maybe future plans about not improving, but improving signage, directing traffic to the major parking that we have that many people don't use. So 2 different questions.
Well, Janine, since I saw your camera come on, it makes me think that maybe you want to speak to that first one.
I'm available. Yes, I just want to note that absolutely acquisition is part of the core element of the Central Beaverton Urban Renewal Plan and part of our 5-year action plan, the Bureau 5-year action plan. It kind of spells out the goals over the next 5 years. So it should be a part of what we continue to do and help catalyze development in different areas.
Okay, because I have a property that came out, Second and Angel, used to be a veterinary clinic for dog eye care something. Came out for $1.4 million, but that's like double lot. So yeah, animal eye doctor. Thank you. So just wondering, that's kind of big lot. Just, just having out there, maybe interest in the future. And parking, can somebody answer to me about parking?
Tyler, do you want to
Yeah.
take a stab at this one since those are your folks? Okay.
Yeah.
Get back. I'm happy to chime in.
Yeah, again, thought I'd give you a chance. Yeah, so board member committee, the kind of the first part is signage. And I know that our traffic engineer did add some signage here in the last couple of years, directing traffic on both Watson and Hall, or directing parkers on Watson and Hall towards the library parking lot. So there is a standard traffic sign of the green P. Now, is that for an old town and get your attention? Probably not. So I think that to your point, I think you're maybe indicating that needs a little bit more than just a standard typical signage. And that is something that is definitely on our minds as well. Another kind of a little bit of a project that we are looking at doing is we've been hearing that on Washington, between 3rd and 4th along that same parking lot of the farmers market parking lot, it's pretty dark. And we've done some analysis and we agree that it is not adequately illuminated. And so we are putting together some funds in order to install some streetlights along that frontage. And I think that will be something that will be really beneficial to help guide folks to that lot, in which we've been hearing is like, gosh, it's kind of dark over there.
So we've been talking about that signage for over 2 years.
No, it's been installed. So
Oh, really?
yeah. If you go out there at 3rd and Watson and 3rd and Hall, there is actually signage that says parking that direction.
Yeah, it's hard to see. So that's my thing. Like, I need some huge signs for direct traffic to the parking lot. Then people would drive down and understand, oh, there's a parking there. So that was going to be comment.
Yeah, I understand what you're more of a look and feel of an old town parking sign, I think is the idea.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question.
Okay. Anybody else have comments or questions? Board Member Lair, I saw you come off mute. Do you have something you'd like to add?
Yeah, I think what board members Hassan and Hartmeyer Prigg were talking about kind of got something churning in my head. And I think this is not an answer today. This is a punt for whenever we have that discussion down the road. But it did get me thinking, and I want to be clear, I'm not making any implications. I have no idea about the specifics of the PIP situation, but I wonder if we do have any concerns about when we're giving businesses money to make improvements, when we're giving these grants, if we worry that potentially creates some adverse incentives for the landlords in terms of, hey, you've got one, this is now a better space, and two, you've now got more tied up into this property that gives me more leverage over you, and potentially causes some problems down the road. Maybe it's something we're thinking about, or maybe not. I don't know.
Thank you, Board Member Lair. I want to add a little something to that, but I was still processing my thoughts. I think it's important for us to know that there are multiple sides to these transitions in businesses. And we are providing grants to support the restoration of the buildings themselves so that we can set the table, set the environment for businesses to be successful. And they don't always stay long-term for a variety of factors. It's a success when a restaurant is able to stay alive for more than 5 years. So turnover rates can be kind of high in general, but I think this kind of gets to, I think it was Board Member Hartmeyer Prigg's comments about support for businesses themselves and making sure that people have the most opportunities as possible to be able to be successful. But there are multiple aspects to all of this. So just knowing where Bureau fits in and how we can kind of help set that table to be effective, I think will be important. I will say that I've worked on some building restoration grants of my own here in Beaverton and also across the state. And sometimes people will put in an agreement with the property owner that they won't raise rents for a period of time to or above a certain percentage, and agreement with getting those funds, something like that. So maybe there's a conversation there for us in the future, and we can talk more about it. But I appreciate you all bringing these up for conversation. I do not see any other names in the chat, so this is your last call for anybody. Okay, great. Well, thank you, everybody. Councilor Duggar just threw in the chat, there doesn't appear to be a board member new business agenda item. Is that something, do we usually have that for Bureau? Can somebody remind me? Oh,
We
is
have
that the top?
communications at the beginning, so that's where it happens.
So, well, can I just, do you guys mind? I was just going to say a quick thank you to Director Hartmeyer Prigg for leading us for the last year and showing up and doing all that. So I just wanted to publicly acknowledge our new board members and then let our past chair know how grateful we are for your service.
Yes, thank you. And definitely welcome to Board Member Hanning and Nye. If you all have questions or comments, again, feel free to reach out to staff. You can also reach out to any of us other board members who have been on the board for 2 years ourselves. So we are happy to be there and learn together and grow through this together. But this was a good meeting tonight, and without any further items on the agenda, then we will adjourn. Have a good night, everybody.